I want to tell you about a deal that fell apart. A Chinese company has spent 2 years trying to find their way into the Gulf market. They had everything, really. The product was good and the price was right, and they had managed to get what felt like the most important thing, a connection. Someone who knew someone, an introduction that led to a meeting. The tea was poured, the handshake happened, and then nothing. Silence. The deal just quietly died, and nobody on either side could quite put their finger on why. I have been thinking about that room a lot because I think I understood what just happened there. They had the connection, but they were using the wrong system. And today, I want to take you inside something I find genuinely fascinating. Two of the most powerful invisible forces in Chinese and Arab business culture, which is Guānxi and Wāsita. From the outside, they look almost identical. Two words from the same thing: relationships, connections, who you know. But spend a little time inside each other and you start to feel how differently they actually are, not just in practice, in their whole underlying logic. If you work between China and the Arab world, or if you're curious about what that world looks like from the inside, I think it might be the most useful thing that I have shared with you so far. Let's start with Guānxi. And I want to be careful here because the useful translation relationship or connections does not really capture it. Guānxi is more like a living web, something you build slowly, thread by thread, over years. Every person in your Guānxi network is connected to you through a history. Meals shared, favors given and returned, time spent on things that had nothing to do with business, but everything to do with trust. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. Guānxi is not about who you know. It is about what exists between you and the people you know. You cannot buy it with a business card. You cannot shortcut it with a LinkedIn request. A single introduction at a conference, however well-intentioned, does not create it. What creates Guānxi is time, patience, consistent, reciprocal investment over time. Every favor creates an obligation. Every obligation, when honored, deepens the relationship. Every relationship deepened makes the whole network stronger. It is almost like compound interest, except what is accumulating is not money, it's trust. Now, Wāsita. The literal translation is something like intermediary or mediation. But what it really means in practice is this. It is the ability to pick up the phone and reach someone who can open a door that is close to almost everyone else. In the Arab world, it's not seen as corruption or unfair advantage, at least not in its Wāsita original, purest form. It is a deeply embedded social mechanism. When someone of standing vouches for you, something transfers, their credibility flows in your direction. The doors that were closed begin to open. But here is where it gets interesting. It moves vertically, through hierarchy, through family, through position and Wāsita authority and the weight that certain names carry in certain rooms. Guānxi builds horizontally between peers through reciprocal exchange, through the slow accumulation of a shared history. One is about who you are connected to and how much they are respected. The other is about the depth of what you and another person have built together. Both are invisible to outsiders. Both are essential to understanding if you want to navigate those worlds with any real grace. Let me show you how each other actually looks like from the inside image. You're a Chinese business person and you want to reach company X. You do not know anyone there directly, but you find a thread. Someone knows someone or someone who might be able to make an introduction. In the Guānxi system, that introduction is not the destination. It is the starting point. The first meeting will probably not be about business at all. There will be a meal. There will be questions about your family, your background, your life. There will be conversation that feels unhurried, even leisurely about things that seems entirely unrelated to the deal. That is not small talk. That is the real work. The Chinese side is reading something very specific. Is this a person I could trust over the long term? Is this someone worth investing in? Because in a Guānxi system, you're not just closing a transaction. You're deciding whether to welcome someone into your network. And that is a much more serious thing. Decisions in the system are not made at the table. They're made in the quiet space between two meetings, after the right people have been consulted, after the relationship has been held up to the light and examined from every angle.
If you're finding these cultural parallels as fascinating as I do, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps me bring more of these deep dives to you.
Now imagine you're a Gulf business partner. You want to reach company Y. You do not have a direct connection, but your uncle is a former minister, and your uncle knows the chairman personally. Your uncle makes the call. The introduction is made and you are in the room. In the Wāsita system, that moment carries a completely different weight. Your uncle has placed his credibility on the line. He has vouched for you, not with words exactly, with something weightier than words. The chairman on the other side of the table knows this. The introduction itself is already saying something. This person is worth your time because someone I trust says so. This is why Wāsita can move faster than Guānxi. The trust has not been built. It has been transferred. The long relationship between your uncle and the chairman is now working on your behalf, like a loan of credibility. But that loan comes with obligations. You're not just carrying your own reputation into that room, you're carrying your uncle's. If you behave badly, if you let the other person down, if you fail to follow through, you're not just burning your own bridges, you're burning his. And in the Arab world, that is a social cost that is taken with profound seriousness. And this is where the story gets complicated and honestly a little heartbreaking when you see it play out from the outside. Guānxi and Wāsita look almost identical. Both involve personal connections. Both involve third party who opens a door, and both operate in the space outside formal institutions. Both are completely invisible to anyone who does not know they exist. So when a Chinese business person arrives in the Gulf, they often think, I understand this. I know what connection look like. I know how to navigate a relationship system. They do not realize they're in a different system entirely. And the same happens in reverse. A Gulf business person arrives in China. They find their equivalent of Wāsita, an introduction through someone with standing. They assume the door is now open. They push forward, expecting things to move. And they wonder why the Chinese side is still being careful, still asking questions, and still not committing. The Chinese side is not being evasive. They're following the only logic. They know the introduction opened a door, but the relationship still has to be built from scratch. That is just how it works. The Gulf side is not being impatient. They're following their own logic. The introduction already transferred trust. What is there to wait for? Neither side is wrong. Both sides are rational. They're just playing by different rules, and neither one has told the other which game they think they're in. To really understand why these two systems diverge the way they do, I think you have to go a little deeper to where each culture actually locates trust. In Chinese culture, there's a concept called 信任. It is one of the 5 classical Confucius virtues: trustworthiness, reliability, and the quality of being someone whose word holds weight. In the Guānxi system, 信任 is built between two people through repeated interaction. You cannot inherit it. You cannot borrow it. It has to be earned directly through the history of what has actually passed between you two. The deal is as strong as the relationship underneath it. If the relationship is shallow, the deal will be too. In Arabic culture, the closest thing is amana, trustworthiness, the quality of someone who can be trusted with what does not belong to them, financially, socially, morally. And in the Wāsita system, amana can be extended when someone of standing vouches for you, and they are essentially lending you their amana. Their word becomes your credential. That is a profound act of generosity and a profound act of trust. But here's what strikes me the most about the difference between them. In Guānxi, trust is built between two people. It cannot move sideways, and it has to be created through direct experience over time between the specific people involved. And in Wāsita, trust can flow through a network. work. The credibility of the person who introduced you does real work on your behalf from the very first moment you walked into the room. Neither is better. Both are sophisticated and both emerged from thousands of years social history in very different environments. But when someone from one system steps into the other, without knowing the difference, that is when things quietly fall apart. So what do you actually do with this? If you're working in China or building relationships with Chinese partners, invest early, long before you need anything. The time to build Guānxi is not when you're looking for a favor. It is months or even years that before that moment arrives. Shared meals, genuine curiosity about the person beyond the business, consistency following through on the small things, all of it is building something that will matter enormously later. And do not confuse warmth with progress. A Chinese counterpart who is hospitable and engaged may still be in the very early stage of deciding whether they want a relationship at all. Read the patience, not just the warmth. And reciprocity is not optional if someone does something for you in a Guānxi system. The obligation is real. Ignoring it does not make it disappear. It just quietly damages something that might have been worth a great deal. And if you're working in the Gulf, find the right intermediary before you try to access the room. Not just any connection. Someone whose standing is genuinely respected by the people you want to reach. The quality of the introduction matters more than almost anything else. And understand what the person vouching for you has actually put on the line. They're not just doing you a favor. They're lending you something precious. Honor it accordingly and move with appropriate speed. The Wāsita system can move faster than Guānxi, but it expects you to move excessive caution after a strong introduction can read as weakness or as a kind of disrespect to the person who opened the door.
If you're interested in diving deeper into these topics, I have something special for you. I send out a weekly newsletter where I break down the latest in language, culture, history, and most importantly, the growing business world between these two regions. You can find the link to subscribe in the description below. And I want to hear from you at the end. Have you noticed any other similarities between Chinese and Arab culture? Let's start the conversation in the comments below. I'm Falafel, and I'll see you in the next video.